Okay, get ready because today we're going deep into a future ripped straight from the pages of science fiction.
Flying taxis, right?
Yeah, eVTOLs, swarms of them all over our cities.
A lot of people want to know if we can make that happen safely.
I guess what? We've got research and reports stacked high to figure that out.
Big question here is can we use, all this crazy cutting edge AI to make eVTOLs autonomous? And not just possible, but like safer than any other transportation?
Right, like a world with no more accidents, no fender benders, no pilots, none of that.
Wild, right?
Yeah, so we've got reports on AI chips, spatial awareness, even companies using like neuroscience stuff to build this tech.
One that really jumped out at me was Palladyne AI. They started out building really complex robots, like seriously complex, for the toughest environments you can imagine.
So like robots for disaster areas or climbing mountains or something.
Yeah, exactly. But then they kind of pivoted.
It's like they went from building an all-terrain vehicle to making it fly.
And now they're all about AI-powered drone software.
And they've even got a contract with the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory.
Yeah, which is a big deal. We're seeing more and more companies moving from the hardware to the software side.
Because that's where the brains are, huh?
Exactly. The software is where the magic happens. And that Air Force contract, it's a clear signal that the military's paying attention. They see the potential too.
Okay, so drones, eVTOLs, how does that all connect to keeping these swarms safe in the air?
Well, Palladyne, they're all about this thing called multimodal sensor fusion. Imagine a drone that can see, but also hear, even feel the world around it. They combine all this data from cameras, radar, LiDAR, and it paints a much more complete picture of what's going on.
So it's like giving the eVTOL extra senses. And like if one sensor fails, there are backups, right?
Yeah, exactly. Redundancy is built in. So let's say a bird hits a camera lens. Normally that would be a big problem. But with all these sensors, the system can just switch to other ones and keep flying safely.
That's amazing, like backup systems for your backup systems. But seeing isn't everything. How does an eVTOL actually understand what's going on around it and make decisions?
Okay, so this is where things get even more interesting. There's another company, Versus AR. They have this platform called Genius that uses active inference.
Active inference. Break that down for me. Sounds a little complicated.
So our brains, right, they're constantly predicting what's going to happen next based on everything we know. Active inference is like applying that same idea to AI. Instead of just reacting, the system is predicting and anticipating what's going to happen.
So the AI would be constantly thinking ahead, looking out for trouble before it even happens.
Right, it's like having a sixth sense for danger. So imagine an eVTOL coming up to an intersection, and the system predicts a car might run a red light. It can start taking action before anything even happens.
Wow, that's some next level stuff. But then you still got to navigate this crazy, constantly changing environment, right? Especially with thousands of eVTOLs all flying around.
Right, so that's where spatial AI comes in. It's like creating a real-time digital twin of the city, a 3D map that's always updating and every eVTOL can access it.
So like GPS, but instead of just streets, it includes literally everything. Buildings, trees, other eVTOLs, even people walking around.
Exactly. This map lets them navigate super precisely, avoid collisions, and find the best routes in real time.
That's insane. Like we're talking a whole new level of interconnectedness, but you need some serious processing power for all this, right? What kind of tech can even handle that?
Well, this is where we get into the brains of the operation. We have some incredible companies working on AI chips for this exact kind of stuff. Brainchip, for example, with their Akita chip, it's known for being incredibly energy efficient.
Hold on, how efficient are we talking?
I'm talking it can run on a single AA battery. That's less power than it takes to light an LED.
That's wild. Okay, so you've got brain chip, but what about all the heavy lifting? The calculations, the processing?
Well, for that, we've got companies like GSI Technology and DeepX. GSI's Gemini Hunter chip is amazing at those complex calculations, and DeepX specializes in chips for visual recognition. So imagine them all working together. Akita handling the sensor data, Gemini T doing the heavy math, and DeepX identifying all the objects and stuff.
Like assembling the Justice League of AI for transportation safety? But, I mean, it still sounds a bit sci-fi, doesn't it?
It does, but we're actually already seeing this in action, believe it or not. Think about Tesla's full self-driving. It's for cars, but it uses a lot of the same ideas.
Like what?
Vision systems, object recognition, virtual cameras for different angles, even something called temporal indexing. Tesla is basically teaching its cars to navigate using those same principles we've been talking about for eVTOLs.
So it's not just a fantasy, it's actually happening. And what's really interesting is how all this tech is coming together, converging to create something truly revolutionary.
That's exactly what we're going to explore further in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at how companies like Brainchip and Versus AI are already talking about collaborating and how this convergence could totally change how we think about transportation, not just getting from A to B, but doing it safely, efficiently, and in a way that's good for the planet.
Welcome back.
back for more on eVTOLs, the future of transportation. Last time we were in kind of deep into the tech side.
Yeah, some crazy stuff like sensors that give eVTOL superhuman senses and AI that can see danger coming before it even happens.
All super cool. But even with all that tech, there's this other big thing we can't forget about.
Public perception, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could have a flying taxi that's statistically safer than riding a bike.
But people still have to, feel okay about getting in.
Exactly. There's this psychological hurdle. People need to trust that these autonomous vehicles are reliable, predictable, that they're not just going to like fall out of the sky.
So how do we get there? Do we just wait for the tech to prove itself?
Not really. Waiting isn't enough. Transparency is going to be key. Companies need to be open about how their tech works, how they're handling safety concerns, what they're doing to minimize risks.
So you can't just build cool tech. You got to show people why it's safe and how it all works.
Exactly. And it can't just be a bunch of jargon and algorithms. It's got to be clear and relatable for, everyday people.
So less multimodal sensor fusion, more about how this tech makes life better and safer.
Right. And we also need to address the worries people have. Like, what happens if there's a malfunction? What about hacking? These are legitimate concerns.
And even with all the precautions in the world, accidents can still happen.
Yeah, so then there's the question of liability. Who's responsible if something goes wrong? The manufacturer, the software developer?
Even the passenger, maybe.
It's a tough one. Lawmakers are still figuring that out. We need clear rules to make sure everyone's protected.
Sounds like a legal maze, honestly. Lot to untangle before eVTOLs are everywhere.
True, but let's not forget about the good stuff. Imagine no more traffic jams, lower emissions, communities connected in new ways.
Yeah, especially for places that don't have great transportation options now.
Rural areas, for example, eVTOLs could change everything for them.
And the whole industry is creating jobs, attracting investment. It's huge.
Yeah, we're talking about reshaping the global economy here.
Okay, big picture's great, but who's actually doing this stuff? What companies are out there?
One making waves is Archer Aviation. They're building an all-electric eVTOL called Midnight.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures. Looks super futuristic, like something out of a movie.
Yeah, and it's designed to be really quiet, which is important if they're flying all over cities.
Makes sense. Nobody wants a bunch of noisy drones overhead.
Right, and they're aiming for a range of about 100 miles on a single charge.
100 miles, that's pretty good for getting around a city. But what if you need to go further?
Well, longer-range eVTOLs are still in development. Battery weight and energy density are the big challenges there.
That's where those super efficient chips come in, right?
Exactly. For now, though, the focus seems to be on shorter trips, maybe connecting airports to downtown or air taxi services within a city.
Like Uber, but in the sky. I'm into it.
Yeah, that's the idea. Companies like Joby Aviation are working on that.
They're building eVTOLs too.
Yep, and they're thinking about a network of vertiports, basically landing pads for eVTOLs all across the city.
So you could just order an air taxi on your phone and it just shows up and flies you over all the traffic.
That's the vision. It could totally transform how we get around cities. Faster, more efficient, maybe even more fun.
Sounds great, but there's got to be some logistical stuff to figure out. Where do you build all these vertiports? And isn't the noise going to be a problem?
Those are definitely things to consider. Vertiports need to be in the right places, easy to get to, and fit into the existing infrastructure.
And yeah, noise is a big deal, especially in cities where it's already pretty noisy.
It's like a whole new set of urban planning challenges. It's not just about the vehicles. It's about creating this whole new ecosystem to support them. Infrastructure, rules, noise reduction, getting the public on board.
Sounds complicated.
It is, but there's one piece of this puzzle that's really interesting to me. Autonomy?
You mean eVTOLs that fly themselves, no pilot?
Right, we talked about it a bit before, but it's worth going deeper.
Honestly, the idea of getting into an aircraft with no pilot kind of freaks me out.
I get it, but people who are into autonomous eVTOLs actually say they could be even safer than having a human pilot.
Really? How's that possible?
Well, AI doesn't get tired or distracted. It doesn't make emotional decisions. It can process information way faster and more accurately than a human.
No human error, basically.
Right, but we're still in the early stages. We need tons of testing, strict safety rules, and good regulations before we can trust them to fly us around.
Makes sense. Even if the tech is perfect, you still have the human factor. Will people ever feel comfortable getting into a vehicle with no one at the controls?
That's the big question, isn't it? Public perception is going to make or break this whole thing.
So, back to trust and transparency. Companies have to prove this is safe, not just say it.
Exactly, but let's imagine for a second that we do figure all that out. What would a world with autonomous eVTOLs actually look like?
Give me the best case scenario.
Okay, so you need to get across town, you open an app on your phone, order an air taxi.
Like ordering an Uber.
Yeah, but in the sky, an autonomous eVTOL shows up, you hop in, and it just takes you straight to where you need to go. No traffic, no stress.
That does sound pretty nice. But what about air traffic control? How do you manage all those eVTOLs flying around?
Well, you'd need super advanced air traffic management systems.
Air traffic control on steroids, basically.
Pretty much. Using AI and real-time data to coordinate flight paths, prevent collisions, and keep everything running smoothly.
So it's not just about making each eVTOL safe, it's about building this whole system to manage them.
Exactly. It's a huge technological challenge, but also a logistical and regulatory one.
It's a lot, honestly.
Yeah, it's the bleeding edge of transportation, lots to discover and figure out along the way.
Okay, deep breath. We've talked about the tech, the challenges, the possibilities. But there's one more thing.
The financial side of
Yeah,
things.
who's paying for this? Is anyone actually making money yet?
Good question. There's a ton of investment pouring in from all kinds of places: venture capitalists, private equity firms, even big aerospace companies.
So lots of money going in, but are these companies making any money yet?
Most are still pre-revenue, meaning they're spending diving money to develop the tech, build prototypes, do test flights, but not really selling anything yet.
So high risk, high reward for investors.
Exactly. They're betting on the future of eVTOLs, but it's still anyone's guess who's going to make it.
So let's say I was thinking about investing. What should I be looking for?
Well, first and foremost, the tech. Does the company have a good design? Have they done successful test flights?
Proven track record? Got it. What else?
The management team is crucial. Do they have experience in aerospace? Do they have a clear plan? Investors need to do their research.
It's not just about picking the coolest eVTOL. You got to really understand the market.
Definitely. And remember, anytime you invest in a new technology, there's risk. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Good advice. Okay, we've covered a lot, the tech, the challenges, the potential, the financial side. But there's one more
The
piece.
societal impact.
Yeah, if we're going to have all these eVTOLs flying around, we need to think about what that means for our cities, our communities, our lives, noise pollution, privacy, all of it.
Noise is a big one. Even if individual eVTOLs are quiet, a lot of them together could get pretty loud, especially in cities.
And privacy, if these things have cameras and sensors, could they be used for surveillance?
It's a valid concern. We need clear rules about data collection and use to make sure people's privacy is protected.
So many ethical things to consider. How do we make sure this tech is used responsibly?
That's the million-dollar question. It's going to take a lot of open discussion, good regulations, and companies being transparent about what they're doing.
It's not just about building flying cars, it's about building a better future for everyone.
Right, a future where transportation is safe, efficient, and works for everyone.
I think that's a good place to stop for now. We've explored the tech, the challenges, the opportunities, the money, and even the bigger societal questions.
Lots to think about.
We'll be back soon for the last part of our deep dive where we'll talk about a really interesting question.
Could a joint venture between some of these companies actually create a safer transportation system, not just for eVTOLs, but for all kinds of vehicles?
That's a great question. We'll be back to explore that and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the show.
For the final part of our deep dive,
We've talked about so much already.
the tech behind eVTOLs, the challenges, the potential benefits, even the financial stuff.
And how all of this could really change transportation as we know it.
Right, but there's one more thing I think we need to talk about.
Okay, what's that?
Could a team up, a collaboration between some of these companies actually create a safer transportation system? And not just for eVTOLs, but for all kinds of vehicles.
Interesting, like a joint venture.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine all that brain power focused on making transportation safer across the board.
I like where this is going. So we've got Palladyne AI with their amazing sensor fusion
Brainchip and their super efficient Akita chip.
versus AI and their cognitive computing platform, Genius,
GSI Technology with their high-performance Gemini chip.
and DeepX pushing the limits of visual recognition AI.
All these incredible companies, each with their own piece of the puzzle.
Right. But what if they combined forces?
That's what I'm talking about, a true dream team.
Okay, I'm on board. Let's say they create this joint venture. What's the goal?
To create a universal safety system, something that can be integrated into any vehicle no matter who made it. Cars, trucks, boats, planes, you name it.
So a system that works across the board, powered by the best AI minds out there.
Exactly, a total game changer for safety.
I love it. So how would this actually work? What would this universal safety system look like?
Okay, picture this. Every vehicle is equipped with Palladyne's multimodal sensor fusion, giving it complete awareness of everything around it.
360-degree vision using cameras, LiDAR, radar, the whole works.
Exactly, and then all that data is instantly processed by Brainchip's Akita chip right there on the vehicle.
No lag time decisions made in real time. That's crucial.
And to make those decisions intelligent, we've got Versus AI's Genius platform in the mix.
Genius. That's the one with cognitive computing and active inference, right?
Right, so the system isn't just reacting to what's happening, it's anticipating and predicting what's going to happen next, just like a human driver, but even better.
So it's like having a super smart co-pilot that never gets tired or makes mistakes.
Exactly. And then we've got GSI Technology's Gemini E-chip handling all the complex calculations.
For things like navigating, avoiding obstacles, and taking emergency actions.
And on top of all that, DeepX's visual recognition AI is constantly identifying and classifying everything in the environment.
Other vehicles, pedestrians, potential dangers, it sees it all.
It's like having a guardian angel watching over every vehicle, constantly making sure everyone's safe.
If we could actually implement this, the impact would be huge, right?
Imagine a world with almost no accidents, where traffic flows smoothly and transportation becomes much more sustainable.
Safer, smarter, more efficient, better for the planet. It's a win-win-win.
And we could roll it out gradually, start with things like driver assistance features in cars, then move towards full autonomy as the tech improves and people get more comfortable with it.
That's a future I can get behind, but like we've talked about, it's not going to be easy, right?
There will be challenges for sure. The tech needs to keep evolving. We need good regulations, and people need to trust that this is the right way forward.
But there's so much happening right now, so much innovation, so much energy in this field.
And it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the bigger picture. Using technology to make life better for everyone.
To create a world where we can all move around safely and freely.
That's what it's all about.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I think we've all learned a lot.
Hopefully it's given everyone some things to think about.
The future of transportation is being shaped right now.
And we all have a role to play in booming that future.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
And until next time, keep those imaginations running wild.